This proves exactly what the Boston Bruins need to do going for the remainder of this season. After a game where you have their stars out, we really saw the difference that is made when you do not have your top players. We're going to be breaking this down, going over these multiple moves the Bruins have made, but also what moves need to now come in the future for the Bruins to remain competitive this season. We're going to be breaking it all down here in this video. Before we do jump into it, ladies and gentlemen, I ask you one favor, and if you haven't already, be sure to hit the sub button. Join me here on the channel. We're covering everything Boston Bruins, and after a game that I wish I did not watch today, we did get a few very good points as to what is coming next for this team, and we're going to have it all here throughout the season on the channel. Now, let's get straight into this, because today I watched the Bruins game that I didn't even know if it was on TV. Hey, I mean, maybe the Bruins didn't play today. You never really know, but the way that this game did end up, and the way that everything really kind of came out in a 6-2 loss against the New York Rangers, we saw one thing, and with a few big players out for this Boston Bruins team, we really saw the difference that they make. The difference that a few players can make on a team, and that this roster is not just yet at the level that we need. Now, there was a few phenomenal players here in this game, and I feel like that's a bit of a stretch in some portions of it, but when you're getting 2 goals from Alex Steeves, pretty good result. One from Casey Middlestat, his return, or excuse me, 1 goal from Alex Steeves and 1 from Casey Middlestat, with another would have been 1 for Riley Tufte had he not thrown Igor Shesterkin into the net. But there were some very solid plays here in this game, and I feel like that was the only positive to really take away with it. I think the goals, the way that we saw this team really have a fight back. Before they went down with a couple empty net goals, couple goals to end the game, the Bruins didn't start off great, but they ended on a okay facet. I think that's something to at least take away with this game, with a roster that is not up to NHL standard. But when you're looking at, once again, the team stats for the second game in a row, you're seeing whoever the Bruins are playing, in this case the Rangers last game, the Islanders, dominate on the shots category. I believe now, if you're calculating these between the last 2 games combined, the opponents outshot the Bruins by double. And that's something that this team will not be able to run with. And like I mentioned against the Islanders, you'll get a win every now and then when you're being outshot significantly, but it will not come easy, and this game was the perfect example of it. You're down your best defenseman. Your starting goalie is backing up this game. You're out your top forward and out, what many people will say is your best center. It goes to show the levels that these players being out of your lineup really have. Even though there were a few people that did return in this game, one being Casey Middlestat after quite a long time on the injury list, it is time that the Bruins now go ahead and really decide what the plan is going to be going forward. And if I'm a betting man, and if I'm one person that is right now at least coming out here and saying what the Bruins need to do, if I had any say as a GM about this Bruins team, I would go ahead here and get some more depth. That is the biggest thing, especially with the injuries. The Bruins don't need to go out here and get a superstar. They don't need that. They have that right now, and they will get that in the upcoming seasons when you get James Haggans, Dean Lurchino, these future stars in the lineup. But a name that we mentioned, Kiefer Sherwood, just to be one of the names of multiple, is an option that would fit the Bruins to a T after what we saw in this game when you're out your multiple, I guess I could say, not a few, your many top players. And with that as well, comes the goaltending. Like I said, Joonas Korpisalo, not necessarily the greatest game at this point right now. But at what point, and I think this is where I am now, at least in my decision, it is time for a goalie and Michael DiPietro to be the backup. I don't see how Joonas Korpisalo can be a better backup, at least at this point, than Joonas Korpisalo. Joonas Korpisalo has not been great. These are his stats throughout November. You're looking at the save percentage, the goals against. He has not been great. Granted, against some great teams, the team has not necessarily played the best in those games, but in a game against the Ottawa Senators where you lose 5-3, 17 saves, on 21 shots, not good enough. You're seeing 30 saves and 35 shots. Some great goals here tonight by the Rangers, and a couple coming on the power play, of course. One big issue the Bruins have been facing in the last little while. Still, I do think that Michael DiPietro, at least at this point right now, is going to be giving better opportunities than Jonas Korpisalo. And that's something I wonder if the Bruins are also thinking about as well. Even though Jeremy Swayman is your top guy, the goalies in Providence have both a .942 save percentage in 10 and 8 games respectively. They've been elite, and I wonder if it's time that the Bruins say, hey, we need to make a move for a backup if we want to remain competitive in games that Jeremy Swayman are not playing. Now, a lot of that, once again, like I said, due to the lineup, very, very tough-looking one here today. That's no disrespect to anybody, but the injuries, Pavel Zacha, back in this game, David Pastrnak, Pavel Zacha, Charlie McAvoy, Matej Blumel at this point, so many names on this team still continue to be hurt. Victor Arvidsson, I could go on for ages. You look at this, Alex Steeves being on your top line with Elias Lindholm, Morgan Geekie, Middlestat with Kuznetsov and Merkulov, who was recalled today. A few moves that we're going to be talking about here in a moment as well. Chanot, Minton, Kastelic, really the one line that stayed the same. And Tufte, Corrali, Asamon, Zadorov, Aspero, Lindholm, Jokiharju, Low-Rye Peak. I mean, this was just a mess of a game here, and a good one to sit out Jeremy Swayman. Tough look it would have been a tough game for anybody in net, but this is a great game to set a reset going, click the reset button, and next game, jump back into it. But like I said, those roster moves today are a few very interesting ones. Middlestat activated, Merkulov called up. I'd be curious to see how long this lasts. I feel like right now, the rotation going to be starting of him, Lysell, and Poitras. Two of which, I think Poitras and Lysell really haven't deserved a call-up just yet. However, I do wonder if the Bruins are trying to rotate some of them in and see if any can crack that potential to stay at this level. Merkulov right now is a guy that I'm okay with being here. I believe he can be at this level compared to the other two, but with the sheer amount of injuries, you don't want to put them in a spot where you're not going to see their potential. So I'm curious to see how this does progress, of course, with hopefully Zacha and Pastrnak back next game. Going to need them back after the result that we saw today. But on top of that, Matej Blumel to the LTIR, who we know is going to be out at least a little while, and Mike Callahan down to Providence. So a handful of moves made here today over the game. I really don't think that any of these would have been a needle mover for today's game. But at the end of the day, you're seeing this one here as one that is now in the past. Get your guys healthy, get everybody back, see what move and what change you can make ahead of next game, and that's where the Bruins go from here. And just before we do move on, there are a few small updates regarding Zacha and Pastrnak here. They're banged up from Wednesday and will be day-to-day, so signs are at least looking positive that they could return for next game, although that is something that we're going to have to wait and see. Don't want to go out here and assume anything, but one thing as well, kind of going on this, is this from Scott McLaughlin and Ty Anderson. And Ty Anderson did this last year as well, and this is something I'd really like to keep an eye on, at least in my personal time. I have never thrown this in a video, but when you're looking at the goals allowed in the first 3 shots of the night, you see from Scott McLaughlin, happens 7 of Korpisalo's 10 starts this season, where a goal is going in on the first 3 shots. Tonight, it was 1 goal, 1 shot, and we saw the result that had on the Bruins. They felt desperate. They felt like they were rushed. I'm not saying it's on Korpisalo, but would that happen if it were Michael DiPietro? That's really where I'm at least at right now at this point, and curious to see how it really does kind of translate into, whatever does come forth for this Bruins team. But if you have a few more updates before we do finish this video off, another one from Boston College, because like I mentioned, Dean Letourneau, James Higgins have been tearing it up down there, and James Higgins, today, a hat-trick with Dean Letourneau coming out with 1 goal as well. These guys are on incredible pace this season. The difference from Letourneau from last year to this year, James Higgins finally seemingly cracking that offense after a slow last year. This is exactly what we wanted to see and is putting us in a very, very good spot heading into next season. It's something at least at this point in the season, for this entire season, we know there's no pressure on us. We sit back, relax, watch how this Bruins team plays, watch how Providence plays, watch how Boston College plays with half our boys down there. We're living. It's a good life, ladies and gentlemen. It is a very good life. So hopefully you guys did enjoy your day today. Yes, sure, through Thanksgiving, as well as the weekend. And I ask you one question when I leave you here for this video ahead of tomorrow. So let me know in the comments below. I asked you this yesterday. Do you want to see the Bruins make a trade soon? I feel like this game now gave us an option to see what it's like without some of our top players. And if we want this Bruins team to remain competitive, I think a move has to be made, whether it is someone like Kiefer Sherwood that we mentioned or the many other players that are on the market. We're going to be breaking it all down as it goes down and covering what the Bruins do next here on the channel. But that is all I have in this video. If you did enjoy, give it a like, hit the sub button as well. I'm signing out though. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for watching. See you later.